Hello. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm just going to pop in and make sure I can be seen and heard and share this into the Wellness Circle so that all of our friends in my private Facebook community can take advantage of this information too. Today we're talking about proton pump inhibitors. We're talking about antacids. We're talking about all those classes of medication that you take, maybe not, or someone you love takes to interfere with their stomach acid. Okay, I can be seen and heard. Let me share. There we go. I shared it to the Wellness Circle. Okay, let's get started. I really like talking about this because it's such a quick win for so many people. And the reason why this topic came up is because I was talking about it on Instagram. We'll get more to that in a minute. So first, I want to know, are you taking proton pump inhibitors? Are you using antacids? Are you doing any of that stuff? Okay, what is your reflux, indigestion, relief of choice? Okay, and then the second thing I want to know is, were you aware, did you know, did anyone tell you that you cannot take those things long-term without major consequences, okay? And if that is a surprise for you, I'm going to really knock your socks off with this one. Did you know that you were likely misdiagnosed when you were placed on those things to begin with? Misdiagnosed at went in, or you weren't misdiagnosed, but they gave you an off-label use of the drug. Yeah, off-label. So you might have been taking something for the last, sometimes I've talked to clients who've been taking them for decades. That was an off-label use, and you probably didn't even know because you probably weren't given informed consent. So that's not fun. So we are going to talk about this today. We are going to talk about all of those things and more. Okay, if this is your first time, if I'm just popping up in your newsfeed, I'm Audrey Christie. I'm a functional integrative nurse nutritionist and energy medicine practitioner. I help women heal from chronic illness and autoimmune disease so that you can stop chasing symptoms. You can focus in on your root cause and heal it for good, right? We don't want any of this, no more of these Band-Aids, okay? So, did you know that proton pump inhibitors, antacids, whatever you want to call them, are not actually for heartburn or acid reflux? Specifically proton pump inhibitors. They're not actually for heartburn. The appropriate indications, as per the manufacturer, are to use PPIs for Helicobacter pylori infections, H. pylori, erosive esophagitis, okay, gastric ulcers, or stress ulcer prevention in high-risk critically ill patients, okay? So unfortunately, these type medications, PPIs and their sister drugs, are often used off-label for extended periods of time, decades even, okay? They aren't even for heartburn or even the more serious form of heartburn or reflux or indigestion called GERD, gastrointestinal reflux disease, okay? But you might have guessed, these drugs are crazy profitable for drug companies. These drugs are highly used in the U.S. Americans alone spend about $13 billion a year, billion with a B, stopping stopping stomach acid with medications like Nexium, Prilosec, all those things, all the ones and the like. Hi, Maria, how are you? So it's not really possible to estimate exactly how many people suffer from reflux or GERDs. There's lots of research, lots of different numbers. And the reason that is because there are prescription and over-the-counter medications both being purchased for it. It's just really difficult to tell. And a lot of people will use antacids for other purposes like calcium. That doesn't work, by the way. But today we're going to talk about why you shouldn't be taking these drugs long term. Even though reflux is serious, it hurts and it has real consequences, things like scarring and esophageal constriction and ulceration and even esophageal cancer. Plus that damage, if you will, extends to the opposite end of where the irritation occurs. So below your stomach into IBS, which is the number 1 or 2 most called in reason for, or number 2 largest reason for missing work. I forget how that was worded. But that and other digestive issues. Okay, so it's a real problem. So when I say you don't need to be taking these proton pump inhibitors, you need to step away from the Tums, all of those things, I'm not minimizing that this is a problem. But there is a better solution, and treating it as its root cause is that solution. It's one of the easiest things to get off of if you're on that medication. So you can save that money, you can save that wear and tear on your human suit, and ultimately find more health and wellness and vitality. Okay, so Did you know that the daily use of an antacid or proton pump inhibitor routinely shows up as a root cause of disease in the body? So root cause of chronic illness, root cause of autoimmune conditions, okay? And yet I meet people every single day in my practice, in my social media audiences, people that contact me for the podcast that have been using either over-the-counter prescription antacids, over-the-counter or prescription antacids, PPIs for decades at a time. And this happens thanks to the marketing that's used for these medications, right? Marketing to both physicians and the public. You can see the ads on TV. You can see the ads in like Southern Living and all, Better Homes and Gardens and Vogue, and all of these magazines have these drug ads in them, right? So it's not just a doctor problem. It's a marketing problem for the public in general, right? And so because of this marketing, it's widely believed by both professionals and the public that acid reflux is caused by too much stomach acid. And it's not. It's simply false. There is not a single iota of truth. It's just a clever spin in the marketing, right? Numerous studies have shown without a shadow of the doubt that GERD is not too much stomach acid. Reflux is not too much stomach acid. And indigestion is not too much stomach acid. In fact, a lot of times it's exactly the opposite, or it's a valve issue, okay? So what happens is people tend to use these type of drugs like wet naps, right? It goes something like, okay, I know I'm gonna go out for barbecue tonight. Let me grab some wet naps. I'll be sure and bring my Tums because I know I'm gonna be messy and I know I'm gonna have heartburn, okay? It's really just kind of baked into our thinking and our habits. We think we have to take this little med to stop the feedback that our body isn't enjoying the food that our brain is, that we are, right? When that sign is really something saying, hello. It's kind of like seasonal allergies I talked about a few weeks ago. Like, it's the little white flag, your body's saying like, hey, something's not right, right? And so when you mask those symptoms, when you ignore those symptoms, the body is stopped. It's like snuffing out the candle, stopped from thriving. And then it's set up for more intense and serious problems ahead. Okay, again, I'm not denying that the symptoms of GERD and heartburn are caused by stomach acid that refluxes or moves up into the esophagus. That part is true. I'm also not arguing that taking these medications does not relieve the symptoms, because it does, right? Otherwise people wouldn't buy it. People wouldn't be taking it. But what it does do is cause the condition that is causing the symptoms to be worse, which lands you needing that prescription or over-the-counter medication for your whole life, okay? So if you have reflux and you're taking antacids, PPIs, whatever your drug of choice is there, anything to reduce or eliminate the stomach acid, that makes the condition causing it worse, and that means you need that medication forever, okay? Pretty neat strategy, huh? It's a really neat marketing strategy from those big drug companies, right? If you don't know this already, cures are not profitable, okay? Cures are not profitable. Continuous masking of symptoms is very profitable. All right, the way Tums, proton pump inhibitors work is not really complicated at all. Proton pump inhibitors work by a very simple mechanism that stops the acid pump in the stomach from producing more acid, okay? Antacids reduce the effect of the acid. Both make the contents of your stomach, the gastric cavity, if you will, less acidic, higher pH, more alkaline, so that when it does bubble up into the esophagus, because it's not stopping that from happening, it's just changing the liquid. When it bubbles up into the esophagus, it doesn't hurt at all, or sometimes just not as much, okay? In that more alkaline environment, right? So we're lowering the stomach acid. In that more alkaline environment, pepsin, which is a digestive enzyme, is not able to have that corrosive, erosive effect on the lower esophageal sphincter and the esophagus itself. The lower esophageal sphincter is just it connects the esophagus and the stomach, okay? The problem is that when we neutralize or lower the stomach acid, we make it a more alkaline environment, you essentially stop the first few steps of digestion, okay? And you're still not treating the root cause, but you're causing more problems, mostly because of you're stopping digestion. Your human suit, your body, is the entire rest of your digestive tract is meant to have nice, strong gastric juices, right? Because that is the way we completely digest our food into what's called amino acids. And amino acids are part of what runs your body, right? So if you use Antacids or PPIs, you change that stomach acid into a more alkaline environment. You eat the food, it doesn't get dissolved in the proper amino acids, and then it continues on down your digestive tract. Well, then what happens? Well, then bigger pieces, right? Your immune system, your body, your blood, your organs are expecting things in amino acid size, and they're getting things more like breadcrumb size, right? It doesn't allow it to break down. So with the ongoing use of proton pump inhibitors and antacids and the like, you become very, very vulnerable to a lot of different deficiencies, a lot of inflammation, because your immune system starts looking like, this is not an amino acid. What is it? I'm going to attack dairy. I'm going to attack eggs. I'm going to attack avocado, right? So you become more vulnerable to many, many different deficiencies, essential amino acids, obviously, because I just described that, but also lots of key minerals, because those minerals are linked to, they all play off of one another. Vitamins and minerals are linked to a lot of the amino acids in your food, right? With extended use of these medications, over the counter or prescribed, makes no difference. You always develop a deficiency of B12, right? Because good, strong stomach acid is what it triggers a series of reactions that actually allows the B12 to be absorbed. Without the stomach acid, you can't absorb the B12, and the whole host of energy and fatigue and anemia and all the things follow that. Okay, brain fog, everything. So it's a very unstable stack of dominoes, right? And they just start falling over once you start using these proton pump inhibitors and other antacid medications over and over again, okay? So on top of that, because I feel like one of those car salesmen, not car salesmen, what is it? Do they still have these like an infomercial? But wait, there's more. Not only does it chop and slice, so there's more. Because the immune function is affected with all of these issues, just kind of like what I mentioned before about the immune system doesn't know, it's looking for amino acids and those are allowed, but it's not looking for the bigger chains of amino acids because they weren't properly broken down by digestion. Immune function tends to be heavily affected, right? And then on top of that, you pile on the low levels of magnesium and zinc. It starts to impact insulin resistance, which leads to diabetes and ultimately heart disease, even if you don't make a pit stop at diabetes before you get to the heart disease. So this is a really great example of what can happen. Sometimes you're eating a really nutrient-rich diet, but if you don't properly digest and absorb and convert these nutrients to get past the digestive system and into the cell membranes, it doesn't really matter what you ate, okay? So PPIs and antacids are great examples of where a short-term medication designed and approved to let the stomach heal for short term, if I didn't say that enough, for short term, designed to let the stomach heal, remember, from things like H. pylori, ulcers, that sort of thing, not reflux, is used long-term and off-label for things like heartburn and reflux. That's off-label, right? And it has big consequences, huge consequences, okay? So there's a few things that cause all of these consequences to happen. So most often it's something called IAP, which has its roots in gut dysfunction and in low stomach acid, right? And so you might be thinking like, what? So what you're saying is low stomach acid is my problem? And yes, even though that is the opposite of what you were sold when you started taking that medication. It's really, really not hard to find the literature to prove this information. I could spam you with all the studies, so let me know if you want to see some studies about it. I'll be talking about the studies in my upcoming free webinar on this very, very subject. So I'll include studies for your reference in the notes there. But just think about one little aspect, right? We know that stomach acid declines as we age. That's really easy to find. Stomach acid declines as we age. In functional and holistic circles, naturopath circles, it's said that after about the age of 40, you really ought to be taking a digestive enzyme with your meals for this very reason. We also know that if you overlay the rate of stomach acid drop in adults over 40, and you overlay the prescriptions of PPIs and antacids and all these categories of medication, acid blocking or stopping medications, if you overlay those, we know that those prescriptions increase with age. So if it were a too much acid problem, as you may have been led to believe, then wouldn't it make sense that those would be inverted, that every teenager would be on acid blocking medication because that's when stomach acid is the strongest, and adults wouldn't need them at all, right? Because our stomach acid is declining, but it doesn't work that way, right? So the moral in all of this is, one, just because these drugs are available over the counter, just because a white coat gave them to you with a prescription pad, does not mean that they are safe or safe for long-term use. Again, they're safe for short-term for what they're intended for. Even then, there's probably a better way to handle that because you're not healing the underlying root cause. But we know that modern medicine is okay for acute reasons. Like sometimes we need medicine for acute issues, and that's okay. So just last week, I shared a case study, very poorly, by the way, and I think I joked about that after that, that if I had actually shared that case study in like clinical rounds, I would have failed for the day. It was kind of an off day, and I'd been talking to clients and patients all day, and so I didn't do a good job of sharing that information. but it was about a client who had weaned off of her PPIs, right? My IG inbox, my Instagram direct messages inbox was flooded with messages about how the heck, I can get off these things? How do I get off these things? I've weaned myself down from 80 milligrams to 40 milligrams, but I can't get off these things. So it's so easy. So here's what I came up with. I'm going to do a class for y'all. It's free to attend, totally free. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to get off these PPIs. And this isn't one of those like webinars where I'm going to tell you the things and I'm going to try to sell you something at the end. No, this is just a class, my gift to you to get off of these PPIs. It's going to be on Tuesday night, bear with me, handy dandy, Tuesday night, the 27th at 7 p.m. Central Time. I will put the link in the comments for you to register. You do have to register. It is a webinar, but that's just the easiest way for me to teach it, okay? It's free for you to attend live. You'll also get a handout with notes. Replay cost is $25, so about the same as a copay. So if you can't make it live, totally fine. $25, you get the replay and you get to keep it forever, okay? So I'm gonna tell you exactly how to get off your PPIs, your antacids, and do it for good, if you're in, okay? If you have more questions about PPIs, about antacids, about stomach acid, about how to get off of them, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm happy to answer those. And as always, I am rooting for you. I am wanting you to take control and become the healer in your home, the healer in your human suit, and to figure out not just about PPIs, that they're just a dangerous trap for you, but also about all the other things that can have downstream effects so that you can live a simple, sustainable life full of vitality and wellness. Okay? So thanks for hanging out with me. If you want to learn more about me, how to implement these things in your life, all those things, check out the link for the PPI class. I'm always rooting for you, friend, and I'm so grateful for you watching this today. See you next time.